Son of Washington podcast.
Now we want to bring the Commanders home with a new RFK that our fans will love, our opponents will fear. It's about a once-in-a-generation opportunity to create a catalyst for long-term transformational economic growth here in DC. RFK was the site of some of my earliest and most meaningful memories. I hope that many others will be able to create incredible memories of their own for generations to come. Let's come home.
What a day, what a day, what a day, what a day. Look, I got to tell you guys, we got all sorts of good news. We've got all sorts of bad news, but there's never a slow day in Washington, D.C. Welcome to the Son of Washington podcast. My name is Ray Smith. I'm your host down here in South Florida, experiencing a little bit of a better way to deal with a week one loss. I got a very special guest with us today. Really excited to have him here with us. You know him from listening to Commanders pre and post game live on 106.7 The Fan, as well as Team 980. We're excited to welcome Denton Day. Denton, what is up, my friend? And I botched the whole show right off the beginning. I'm trying to bring you in. I got you covered in black. What's up, my man?
Right, what's up, man? I'm happy to be here. I'm jealous and envious of the weather that you get to live through as we, mourn the week 2 loss. But I'm onwards and upwards, right? I'm happy to be here.
I told Denton in between us getting ready to go live that I'm positioned down here in West Palm Beach, right in between Mar-a-Lago and the Nationals. And what is it? The Astros, the Nationals and the Astros complex. I think they're shared between the Nationals and the Astros. The ballpark of the Palm Beaches, as it's called, which is one of my favorite venues to see a baseball game. I'm not sure, Denton, have you been down here at all for baseball ever? I'm not sure if they send you down here.
They send people. They do not send me. They're bigger baseball fans than me at our station, so that makes a ton of sense. I have not been down there. The amount of ballparks, really in any regard, basketball, hockey, baseball, football, whatever. I just have not been to a lot of them, which I need to expand a little bit on that.
Well, when you're up there where you are, I mean, you've got for me, the baseball mecca of Oriole Park at Camden Yards, which is a beautiful ballpark. Nationals Park is awesome in a lot of different ways. I still lived up in the Northeast and in the area when that ballpark opened. And so it was cool for me to see that they didn't go traditional. They went a little bit more modern outside of some of that DC related stonework that they do behind the backstop and all that kind of stuff. But one of my favorite things in the world is to go in February to a game at the ballpark of the Palm Beaches and look out over center field, and at the center field wall there's just this beautiful row of royal palm trees, and it's this is how baseball should be. This is I know everyone back home everyone back home is freezing their rear end off. But all right, enough baseball, because my Orioles got eliminated yesterday, and even though they won, they got eliminated from playoff contention. What a crappy year for us. Let's talk about the big good news that came out today, Denton. 11-2 vote, DC Council. We are returning to RFK, my friend. Yeah, hit me with it, man. I know you've probably been covering this all day long, but you got to give us what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm pumped about it. I was head scratching a little bit this morning when I realized this was going to be a little bit more of a vote than I thought it was going to be, because it feels like we've been doing this 4 or 5 times now about hey, it's passing, but we got to do one more vote. But
I saw your tweet where you're for the 4th time, it's finally official.
I mean, it's how many times are we going to do this? I thought 3rd time was the charm. Apparently 4th time is the charm with these sorts of things. But it's going to be so great to get the team back to the actual heart of the city and what that is going to do for the city, and having that kind of coincide with, and I don't think this is a coincidence, but having that coincide with an era of the future where it looks like they're going to be a pretty good team, right?
Well, we think so.
If we you would think so, especially with the way that Jayden's playing. If this came back in 2008 and it's Jason Campbell and Todd Collins on the roster, you're I mean, this will be kind of fun, but how great is it going to be? So at least it's a little bit better now that you have your quarterback, and it'll just be so nice. I have other interests, you have other interests. It'll be nice to have things like a Final Four in DC,
for sure.
To have a Super Bowl, hopefully with the team playing in it, but a Super Bowl regardless in DC. I'm a wrestling fan. I want to see WrestleMania in DC.
That would be awesome.
All of these sorts of activities, all of these sorts of things that can bring more people, that can bring more activity to the city. I think that's all a really great thing.
I mean, honestly, I just love to see that ballpark, to see RFK. And you have to assume they're going to keep RFK in the name somehow. I don't know if it's going to be Northwest Financial Field at RFK Stadium Park, some garbage, whatever they'll come up with to try to keep that stuff together. But I would love to see at that location big mainline concerts happen without the fear of the field being destroyed, like has been like, or without the fear of there being an absolute nightmaric issue. I mean, like, can we go see Coldplay or Taylor Swift or some big headline act without having to worry about the sewage breaking and ruining everything? I mean, it's FedEx Field, and I'm not even calling it Northwest anymore. I mean, FedEx Field, may it rot in hell, is just a terrible venue.
It's a dump
everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I went there for the first time in probably almost 10 years last year. My wife is from Cleveland, so she wanted to go see the Browns play. And so we went, and I will say the experience was way more enjoyable than I thought, just because we kind of knew what to expect and everything, went swimmingly. But there's a long period of time where it wouldn't. And do you know how embarrassing it is for Taylor Swift to be like, I don't want to come there?
100%.
She did like New York 3 times over the course of that tour that she did LA like 6 nights in a row, and she's like, I'm good on this
nation's
DC thing.
capital. No, thank you. Yeah,
no thanks.
Make any
like
sense.
I'll go to Baltimore. I'll go to Philly. You're like, are you serious?
Yeah.
So getting a venue where you'll be able to host events like that to go along with the football is a very, very big win for really everyone in the greater DMV area.
A buddy of mine is a huge diehard Philadelphia Eagles fan. He grew up in Philly. He sent me I think David Aldridge was the first tweet that we saw that it had passed 11-2. He sent me the tweet and he was like, I really hate your team. He was like, but I got to tell you, I'm pretty excited about this. He lives in the Maryland and DC area now for work. He's a military contractor, and he said that whole area around RFK is a ghost town. It's so dead. So to see life being breathed back into the nation's capital is exciting. And I think, like, obviously there's different areas that are alive, but like the only way you get to see RFK anymore is almost like if you're taking the metro in. Like you come in from that first metro stop that's way, I can't remember what it's called, that's way out on Route 50, and then you take it in and you actually get to see RFK, and it looks like a graveyard. It's like the ghost of football past.
Yeah, I was I had went to a concert, ironically, at FedEx last year. We're driving back, and the way we're driving back, I'm a Virginia guy, so I gotta drive back in through the city and then into Virginia. And then we're driving past RFK, and it is at that point probably 10:30, 11 at night. So there's not a lot. It's literally looks like it is completely abandoned, which it was, but it looks like a zombies map from Call of Duty. I'm like, fun. This is part of a new DLC that you can lock up here, and you can go running through here.
And it looks terrible right now, where it's like halfway torn down. I saw like today someone posted a new picture, and like all of the upper seating and stuff, it's just like the frames are like, just put it out of its misery, man. Like
I know, it just needs to go completely down to the ground and then build it back up.
Yeah, it'd be a lot of fun. So that's big news number 1 of the day. Big news number 2, and I know that you're cramped for time, so I don't want to take too much of your time up. Jayden Daniels, and talk about the ghost of quarterbacks past, sprained knee. Denton, like I don't even like. Look, man, I have pictures all around my house of my daughter, who's now 16, who at the time was like 3 years old, sitting in front of a Christmas tree wearing a number 10 RG3 jersey, sitting on the ground with her hands up from behind doing the RG3 New Orleans Saints pose that we had every toy in the world made of him. And then a few short months later, it all goes away. I'm gonna be honest with you, and like, I love everything we've seen about Jayden Daniels, but on draft night, I was pretty concerned about his frame. When he took the rib injury, I was pretty concerned about his frame. He played through it. He played great. Down the stretch last year, I thought he did a really good job at protecting himself. He seemed to, like, even though he got a little bit bloody in the Bucs game, which I actually was at. I took my son to that Tampa game, and that was a story for another time. A great night of watching my 12-year-old son trash talk crying Tampa fans on the way out of a playoff stadium. But he got a little bloody there, but for the most part, he protected himself pretty well. You get this hip drop tackle that's supposed to be illegal. There's no flag thrown. As the game is going on, in obvious garbage time, and fantasy football players like myself are begging for any amount of life to happen, and he's limping all over the place. Then, like, this kid can't play on Sunday, right? I mean, I know that DQ today said in his presser that, like, he's hitting all the marks and he's made a good first step, but, like, at what point do they have to, like, protect this franchise?
Yeah, I don't anticipate him to play. I think having Marcus Mariota speak today was a good example of
Mhm.
that. I think the line shifting drastically is a
Yep.
good example of that. Sometimes Vegas has inside information, but a lot of times they're just going based off of statistics. And
Yep.
the general, rest time needed for an injury like this is more than, 10 days, 11 days, whatever it would have been. I don't really feel like they need him on Sunday. It's not that I don't think the Raiders are a good team, but if you're playing the long game here, which they have been telling us they are playing the long game, it would be idiotic to get him out there on a bad leg in the hope that you can win one football game in September and then risk potentially losing him for the rest of the season. And you lose him for the rest of the season, what does that do for his development? If you want to get injured in the NFL, which nobody does, but it's a lot more manageable when you're in like year 4 or year
Yeah.
5.
Yeah.
But when you're in year number 2, like this is an important year for his development to see, hey, what you did in the rookie season was great. Can you do that again? And this is going to be a consistent thing because there are people like myself who've been saying like this is a guy, last year was a top 5 year
Yeah. 100%.
quarterback wise. And if this is what he's going to be consistently, we're going to be doing dances on
Yeah.
Independence Avenue
Yeah.
more than
Yeah.
once in my lifetime, which would be nice because I haven't experienced this yet. So I think they need to be smart here. And, because of the way that the offense is run, there's not a drastic change from Jayden to Marcus Mariota. So I think while I don't want to see Marcus Mariota, I like him. I don't ever want to see him play. I
Yeah.
think it's a smart decision to have him go out there and say, Jayden, if you can get 17 days of rest, 17 days of rest, you might be able to then willingly come back from a knee injury like this.
Over the last 15 years, it feels like we've seen a lot of back and forth from everybody. We've heard Mike Shanahan talk about what his opinion of the RG3 situation was. Robert has not shut up about it, about what his opinion of his situation was. I mean, he threatened like a no holds barred tell all book, which I think that was a stunt more than anything. But
I can tell you that book was the writing process was started.
Okay.
I can tell you that.
Okay.
And then it never came out because he listened to somebody else's advice, thank God. And they said, this is probably not a good look for you. And he agreed.
Well, your guy, Kevin Sheehan, who I know you work with pretty closely on 980, he had an unbelievable interview with Mike Shanahan. I think it was probably 2 years after Shanahan had left. And Shanahan spilled like all of the tea. I mean, Shanahan was like, they're still paying me $8 million a year, but like, I'm going to tell you guys all of it. And he talked about the day that Robert walked into his office with the playbook crossed out and Dan Snyder standing behind him with his arms, like just Shanahan went in. Like it was one of my favorite interviews I've ever heard. Obviously it's a very different situation in DC right now. You're not going to have, the Harris group or Magic Johnson, like carrying Jayden into, to the coach's office and saying like, this is what we will and won't do. But I do think that Jayden has probably got a little bit of RG3 in him in the way that like he's going to be pushing to get back in. DQ hinted at that today, that he's doing everything that he can. He's having to calm him down. Is this a team that's able to protect Jayden from himself? Like, I think that the front office and the coaching staff is strong enough, but are they? Because the temptation is real. At 1-1 right now, we've seen some insane things happen in the last 7 out of the 10 days that we have until they play again. We've seen them, their playoff odds have dropped to like 59%, which is like idiotic. Like it's one of the most insane things I've ever seen. Green Bay is a good team. Like they are an elite level defense. I think we're seeing their Cinderella story happening right now, but in the eyes of the beholder, this one loss is devastating. The power rankings, they dropped out of the top 10, which I mean, I don't really care about power rankings, but the reality of it is in a social media driven world, the story on Washington right now is not just that they lost, but that they are struggling. Jayden Daniels has not put up the numbers in 2 games that he put up last year, but Commanders fans and Redskins fans like me would tell you, if we had these first 2 weeks of quarterbacking over the last 30 years, we'd take it over anything that we've had. But our opinion, because of social media and because of what we saw last year, I mean, you said it was a top 5 quarterback year. Jayden Daniels had arguably the greatest rookie quarterback season in the history of the NFL last year.
Right.
What's the truth, D-Day? Like, is it that the Packers were that good? Is it that the Commanders were that bad? Clearly they didn't play their best night, but they only lost by 9. Social media's influenced a lot, man. Like, what is the truth? Like, are we looking at a 59% playoff run here?
No, these percentages I think are done to I don't know what the math equation is on that. I think, we're so new to the football
Hmm.
analytics world, and these percentages being, billed as, some form of, sports entertainment gospel that they seem to be, at least on one four-letter network. I
Yep.
don't think they
Yep.
have a good I don't think they have a good algorithm for it. I don't know how much I trust these sorts of things. I do real quickly want to talk about the one thing that you mentioned when it comes to Jade and Robert. I do think the organization is going to protect him, because I do feel like the biggest difference between those two guys, Jayden is just a, I want to kill everything in front
Yeah.
of me
Yeah.
competitor.
Yeah.
And it's not that Robert wasn't a great competitor, but there was an element of, I know the Shanahans really like Kirk Cousins,
Yeah.
and I need to
Yeah.
make sure that he does not come and steal my job. Now, he did end up taking his job,
Yeah.
but there was a much more of an element of jealousy with Robert, where I don't think that Jayden is looking at Marcus Mariota and be like, man, I hope he doesn't take my job. Like, that's not going to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
So that element is very, very different. In terms of the first 2 weeks of the season, I've been a little bit disappointed in what I have seen
Yeah.
from Jayden, just because I was hoping, maybe this is idiotic on my part and a little bit of setting the bar too high. I was hoping to see right where the season picked off last year, and that's just not how things work in the NFL. There are some
But
things
it's
that I
also
watched.
definitely not how the NFL works when your number one target misses the entirety of the offseason. I mean, like, I'm glad
Right.
that Terry's here. Terry's a professional. Terry is putting up very similar numbers in the first 2 weeks of the season that he put up last year. I think he actually his numbers are better in the first 2 weeks of the season they were last year, which
Slightly
is
better.
hysterical. Like, that's freaking wild. But like, when you lose this time, it's a problem.
It's a big problem, and that's what we've seen. I went back and watched literally just like the first two quarters, first half of the Thursday night game, because I wanted to see, is Terry getting open or is he just stifled? If he's getting stifled, that's on him. If he's open, there's a slightly larger issue at hand. And it was the latter. I was not happy about it, but it was the latter. I'm looking at it. I'm saying, all right, there are instances where Terry is open, and for whatever reason is, and sometimes it was because the pressure was getting to Jayden. The offensive line doesn't seem to be a well-oiled machine at this point. They can
Yeah.
get there, but at this point, they don't feel like a well-oiled machine. So some of that is he has so much pressure that he has to move his eyes off of Terry. But there were some other instances where Terry is open. It's a tight window, but it's a throw that you
Yeah.
can make to a guy that specializes in a contested catch situation. And for whatever the reason is, the ball was not coming out of Jaden's hand. I do think a lot of that is based off of the fact that they didn't get a lot of
Yeah.
time to get back into rhythm with one another. Now, were they throwing in, instances? I know they certainly were in like the month of April and May. We
Yeah.
saw
Yeah.
pictures of
Yep.
that
Yep. Yep.
before Terry left, but I don't know how much they were able to really get on the field together during training camp, and you knew something like this was going to happen. So I'm not, this is not panic by any stretch of the imagination. The nice thing about 17 games is you get 17
Yeah.
games,
Yeah.
which means there are 15 left to go here.
Yep.
But I do think when Jayden gets back and healthy, there needs to be a discussion between those two. I don't know. I don't want to say like a coming to Jesus moment, like
Yeah.
a players only meeting kind of a deal, because we're not the Dolphins. But I just they need to get on the same page, because this offense gets better when they're on the same page, and part of that's on Cliff too. Like, he needs to make it easier for Jayden. He also needs to run the damn ball.
Yeah, but I think you look at Cliff's offense on week one, it looks totally different than week two. I don't think that it was
Totally.
like, I wouldn't call it well oiled in week one either. I think that the run balance was a little bit better than it was in week two. I mean, and like, look, don't get me wrong, Austin Eckler is a beast. I love what Austin brought to the team. It's a shame that he's gone, but like, I also never really totally understood, like, were they protecting Bill by making Austin the number one running back at 30 plus years? Like, there's a lot of things that I wondered if it's just semantics, but then you look at the carries. Bill in week one only gets 10 carries in week one. Week two, what do you have? 5? Like,
He
it's
didn't
not a
touch the
lot.
ball until like midway through the second quarter.
Yeah.
And if you're going up against a defense that is a really, really good defense, on the cusp of potentially, when they really put things together, being elite, you have to help your offensive line. You got to help your quarterback out
Yep.
by running the football, and it can't just be on Jaden. I think that's what my biggest disappointment has been in the first 2 weeks. You make a lot of changes this offseason, good changes, get some guys, get some more talent around here, and then you're still making the quarterback go out there and be Superman. And he can be Superman. I don't want him to be Superman.
Yeah.
And like, if you're not running the football with your primary running back, I mean, Eckler only had 2 designed carries
Yeah.
in the first quarter and a half against Green Bay. You just can't do that. You have to get the offensive line playing downhill, and you have to at least establish the threat of somebody else other than 5 doing something crazy to make a play. When you limit that, it makes it very easy for these big, fast monsters like Micah Parsons and a bunch of the other guys
Yeah.
on that Green Bay defensive line to just pin their ears back, and we are going straight for number 5.
Yeah, and I get that, but like I don't want to defend the team. I don't want to defend bad play. It's not been good football. Like, for sure, the offense has not been what we want it to be at all. But, like, are they going to face back-to-back defensive lines like what we saw in New York and Green Bay? I mean, like, New York sucks, but their defensive line's not bad. I mean, like, they got great pieces on the defensive line. I think the rest of it is in shambles right now.
I mean, getting Green Bay on 4 days is terrible. I mean,
awful.
Thursday Night Football in week number 2 should be abolished.
Yeah.
The NFL is hungry, so I get it, but it does not do any justice at all. Unfortunately, Cliff doesn't excel in those short turnarounds. We've seen that twice now, but like getting that is the worst time to ever get the Green Bay Packers as they are like seemingly, transitioning Michael Parsons
and they're
into
rabid,
what was already
absolutely rabid. Yeah, I mean, like that defense was swarming. So here's the final question. I know you got to get ready to go. Is Green Bay that good, or was Washington that bad on Thursday?
Green Bay's that good. I was texting a bunch of guys that I know in that market, and I was texting them during the game, which I should not have done because I don't like texting the opposition during the game. But I like these dudes, and they're nice about it. And I texted them, I was like, y'all got a real championship contender. And they basically told me to shut up. They're like, don't jinx this. Be quiet. Don't do this. But they are legitimately really, really good. The only thing that's going to hold them back right now is nothing to do with defense. It's can Matthew Golden end up being a legitimate number 1 wide receiver or whoever. That's their only downside. They're not going to be able to go up against defenses that allow 150 yards or whatever it was for Tucker Kraft. The Commanders' defense just is historically not been very good against tight ends. You will play teams that know how to.
But it was so bad Thursday, though. It was so bad. I don't like. I mean, I don't even have words for every single time the ball was in the air, and it was like I could see from the camera angle it was a potential of a big play. I was like, tight end, here it comes. Like,
I was like, how is he this open? Do they not know to guard him? Like he had like a 70-yard catch. After a tight end has a 70-yard catch, I'd make a note. I was like, we should probably make sure we're staying in front of him. So the defense just didn't look.
It reminded me of Chris Cooley, how he used to torch the Eagles, and it made no sense at all. Like, Cooley would just absolutely destroy the Eagles. That's what it was in Green Bay. All right, buddy, I know you got to get ready to go, so we'll let you jump off here in a second. We got to at least talk a little bit about Sunday before you run. Give me 60 seconds on Oakland. Correct me if I'm wrong, Green Bay had 135 yards rushing on the ground against a Washington defensive line that in week 1 we thought was going to have a lot better of a chance against a beat-up Green Bay offensive line than they did. They were disappointing. They were disgusting. It was bad. You got a pretty highly touted stud running back that Pete Carroll just came out and said he's going to feed the ball to a lot more. I mean, this seems like the team to do it against. Give me your quick hits on that, and then we'll let you go.
Yeah, I'm hoping we see the week 1 version of Deron Payne and Javon Kinlaw. They get extended rest. I hope they were looking at Twitter and seeing all the nasty things and using that as positive motivation. They're going to run the football with Ashton Genty, especially considering how Geno Smith played on Monday, which was not
good at all.
Close to the level that they want him to, or just not good at all, right? So they're going to feed the ball to Ashton Genty, and when Boise State did that, good things happened. I imagine that's the approach that Oakland or Vegas is going to take now. So they're going to have to be really, really disciplined. I think this is going to have to be a big Bobby Wagner game and a big Frankie Louvu game, because Frankie Louvu hasn't been exceptional, and he's not like the greatest run guy in the world, but he needs to make an impact because we haven't really seen him a ton.
I keep coming back to my 12-year-old, my almost 13-year-old son. He's a huge Frankie Louvu fan. He like, for whatever reason last year, he fell absolutely in love with Frankie Louvu. And in 2 weeks of football this year, he sat next to me on the couch for two games now going, what is Louvu doing? Over and over again.
It's been tough. That was my tribal chief. I acknowledge the tribal chief. And in the first 2 weeks, he just hasn't been all that good. So I'm hoping that this weekend we see a lot more highlight plays from Frankie Louvu.
D-Day, thank you so much for your time, man. Appreciate you being here. Do me a favor. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, you can get me on Twitter at the Denton Day. I will be. We're actually on location somewhere in Alexandria, so stay locked to my Twitter for that because I should know that and I don't. But we're on location again. We're doing a lot more traveling for the pregame show. So if you can't go to the game, come hang out with us at a pub in Alexandria this weekend.
It's gonna be a lot of fun. Denton, man, thanks so much for connecting. Look, we've been chatting back and forth on Twitter for a couple of years now. I'm excited that I finally got to get you on the show. Appreciate your time. Give them hell at 4:30 in the morning, my friend.
I appreciate it. Let's do it again
Thanks so
soon.
much. Denton Day, 1067 The Fan, and ESPN 980. Washington Commanders pregame and postgame show host. Denton, thank you so much for your time today. What a good time. Appreciate the insight, appreciate the outlook. Look, guys, we're talking about this stuff. We're not glazing the fact that this team has not been through 2 games what they're supposed to be at all. Sergeant Wilkie's in here, Texas Attitude's in here, guys. Sorry that I was kind of quiet on the chat as we got things going. Really just trying to respect our guest time, knowing that he had to get up at 4:30 in the morning to be on the radio. So recapping, we talked a little bit about the new stadium deal here as we open the show, Jayden Daniels injury, and should we have concerns about this RG3 fear of returning that we're currently looking at. Packers and Commanders, we recap that just a little bit. Now we're looking ahead to the Raiders game. Look, guys, there's a lot to dive into on this Oakland Raiders game moving forward. What is Jayden Daniels' status going to be? Again, that Raiders run game, is Ashton Genty going to get more carries than what we've seen after a little bit of an uneven start? I got to tell you guys, I'm a little bit worried about the run game. Like, Genty is a guy that can absolutely pop. He's a guy that's electric when the ball gets in his hand, and when he has time to make things happen. It has not looked as good in his first 2 weeks. And I'll tell you, as a fantasy owner of him, he's not performing the way that I wanted him to as a fantasy football owner. But this situation coming against the defensive line that, like, honestly, in week 2 looked like it did for the majority of last year. Not able to get off the ball. Third downs were atrocious against Green Bay. I mean, Green Bay just beat them in absolutely every phase of the game. Like we just heard Denton say, you know, it's hard to judge the team because Green Bay is just that good. I think even he said that they look like they could be primed for another championship run, which is, you know, I mean, they played against a very good on paper Washington team and really beat the absolute brakes off of them. So this run game is something that I'm a little bit worried about. Washington's run defense, I was right, allowed 135 rushing yards last week against the Green Bay Packers. I'm pretty sure that the Raiders are going to test that and test it early and often. Right now, though, Washington is slightly favorited, -3 or -6, depending on where you're looking. And as D-Day told us earlier in the show, like Jayden Daniels' situation is making the odds makers freak out and flip out. And like he said, Vegas seems to know something. And as that line shifts, I don't know, man. You got a lot of people that wonder what's going to actually happen here. Is this a low-scoring game? Is this a high-scoring game? Here's the thing for me. I think that it's really difficult. Pete Carroll, for some reason, always seems to have some amount of magic in his bag of tricks and seems to get the best out of players and get players to respond in ways that a lot of coaches throughout NFL history just haven't been able to do. Terrible quarterback play last week or this week on Monday Night Football. A question that I actually do have, something that I am very, very, very curious about in regards to this Commanders and Raiders game on Sunday is we saw the Commanders have to go on a short week, 4 days rest, not even 4 days rest, travel in between 4 days rest, between playing a very physical game on Sunday into that Packers game on Thursday. The Commanders have now had 10 days to reset and recalibrate, lick their wounds, see what's happening with their quarterback and the players that they lost. The Raiders played late Monday night, and now they're flying across the country, coming into DC, a home game at Northwest Stadium or FedEx Field, whatever it is that you want to call it for the Commanders. Is there an advantage there? Again, like, you like to believe that based off the way that we saw Marcus Mariota play when he played in limited snaps last year, that this team with Terry, with hopefully what we believe we have out of Bill. And like, guys, can we talk about the fact that we don't really know what Bill is yet? I mean, like, we saw rookie of the week in week number 1, hardly touches the ball in week number 2, even after the injury. I mean, I guess the game was pretty much lost and it was easy to get away from the run game, but like, can we find that balance in the run game? Can we attack them the way that we expect the Raiders to attack the Commanders? These are the questions that we have going into week 2 or into week 3. And more importantly, does the short week and the travel benefit the Commanders after they've had 10 days to lick their wounds? Again, if Daniel's limited, you think they'd go run heavy? I mean, this is the opportunity to give Bill a chance. Like, I would feed Bill early, often, and then repeat. Like, hand the ball off to Bill, set the tone. I could be wrong. I'm not sure if anyone in chat knows. So if I get this stat wrong, someone please forgive me. I should have looked it up before we went live in the show. I believe that Bill Krosky-Merritt still has not yet had a play or a touch that went for negative yards. I believe that he's been positive yardage in every single one of his carries. That's something that you can't look away from, guys. You can't just see a guy that's getting positive touches, even if it's 2 and 3 yards. Look, guys, if you're averaging 3 yards a carry, you're averaging first downs, just over 3 yards a carry. Bill's yards per carry at that positive rate still have to be pretty solid. I'd love to see Cliff, like Denton said, get back into the pocket and get into calling plays the way that he did last year. Where's that screen game? And I know that like, honestly, on Thursday night, it felt like there was no time to do anything. And when we saw the screens, they were swallowed up by 3 and 4 and 5, all white jerseys and helmets immediately. But you can't abandon the play style and the play calling that almost took you to the Super Bowl just 1 year ago. It's time to get back in line and get things re-gone. And with Eckler out like he was for the majority of last year, guys, look, I love Austin Eckler. I think he's an absolute spark plug when he can touch the ball and make things happen in open field. But we didn't have him for the majority of the season last year. It should be no concern that we're not going to have him for almost the entire season this year. And like I just said to D-Day a few minutes ago, I don't think at all that Austin Eckler is running back number 1. Should have been the plan, could have been the plan. I don't know if they're trying to protect Bill, if they're trying to establish that Austin was that Eckler was a threat. The whole thing didn't make any sense. But if Daniels is limited or is out of the game, you got to go run heavy with Mariota. Can the defense rebound? We talked about this just a minute ago. It was an absolute collapse last week. What are they going to be able to do? And then what about the matchups in the Raiders secondary? This, whether Jayden is in the game or not, this is a game that you absolutely have to see Terry McLaurin turn into October, November, December Terry McLaurin from 1 year ago. Okay, it's been 3 weeks now. You've had rest. I know it's not ideal that Jayden's not been there to throw you the ball this week, but whether it's Marcus or JD, Terry McLaurin has got to make an impact and make a statement this week. This has to be an 85-plus yard, if not a 100-plus yard game with at least a touchdown for Terry McLaurin, or the chatter of the overpay, overhyped, aging wide receiver is not going to get any quieter at all. This is a time that we've got to see your number 1 guy step up. Terry, you've been a captain for years. Terry, you've been the lone bright spot as a leader on this team for years. This Sunday, now is the time. It's time for you to step up. Deebo Samuel, not as good of a game last week as he did in week 1, but still not a terrible game. You know, we talked about this. We talked about, did Deebo have time to warm up to the offense? Was Deebo warmed up to the offense and maybe that replaced Terry a little bit? I don't think so. There's enough balls to go around. Noah Brown is likely to be out this Sunday. Injuries are all over the place. Like we said, we already lost Eckler for the year. They've lost Wise for the year. Other players, I believe that we put on IR today. I'm blanking it right now. It's time for these guys that are playmakers to step up. If you do not have Noah Brown, then you need to see a very heavy, very, very, very heavy Terry and Deebo Samuel day. Zach Ertz is still doing Zach Ertz things. He's not as spry as he once was. He is about as reliable of a security blanket as Jayden has had. What does Marcus Mariota do to an offense of Zach Ertz, Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel? What does that look like? If Cliff can get the run established, what does that do to the rest of the game? Washington's at home. If there are bright spots, from what we saw last week, they did not turn the ball over. Okay. When you have a team that's not turning the ball over, whether you're dealing with injuries or whether you're dealing with poor offense, and has been poor offensive output, but when you're not turning the ball over, if we can get this run game going, if they can control the clock, if they can establish the run, play solid defense, and again, like, I wonder, guys, I just wonder, I'm wondering out loud. Chat, you got to help me out here. I'm absolutely wondering out loud. Are we going to look back at this Green Bay game that the defense at the defensive performance in November and say, maybe we had judged Washington too harshly. Maybe Washington, to hold them within 9 points, was a lot better than anyone could have expected. Is this a team that's going to come through and be like one of those all Madden 99 overall ranked juggernauts towards the end of the season? I will tell you this, the eye test. Okay, forget the statistics. Just go by the eye test right now. Jordan Love absolutely looked the part last Thursday. He moved around the pocket with such confidence and like a little bit of a gallop in his step. Honestly, D-Day was talking about messaging people in the Green Bay market. I thought about messaging Zabe, but he was enjoying so much watching the team that he used to cover get absolutely beaten to the ground on national TV. I didn't feel like it was a good idea. They might have something with Love. This guy looks like he can make every throw. It looks like it was very difficult for him to be rattled by, again, a Washington defense that just a week before were absolute, complete, and total offensive line wreckers. What are the keys, guys? The keys of the game for me are going to be, like D-Day had said, keys of the game against this Las Vegas team, establishing the run, controlling the clock, and playing solid defense up the middle. We've got to stop this run game. We got to limit Ashton Gentry. We got to limit this kid. This cannot be another 135 yards on the ground game to set up Oakland's passing game. This is a game that, like, on paper, you would think that the Commanders can clamp down their defense. You would think that there are opportunities for them to make plays and to establish a little bit more game control than what we saw in Green Bay just a week before. But it's yet to be seen. If I'm being real, guys, I think this is a game that you have to sit Jayden Daniels. We talked about with D-Day, you got to protect this kid from himself. You got to establish and set up the future of this franchise. And putting Jayden Daniels out there on a sprained knee, I don't care how insignificant it sounds. There is nothing that you can do to take away the vision of Robert Griffin III's knee bending in ways that no human knee should ever bend. Okay? I do not want to see that with Jayden Daniels. You can say whatever you want about Robert Griffin III. You can love him. You can hate him. You can call him a loudmouth. You can call him cocky. You can call him a freak athlete. You can call him one of the greatest rookie seasons that we've ever seen, and until Jayden kind of erased it this year. But what you cannot ever convince me of is that injury did not completely and totally shift the trajectory of his career. Winning cures a lot. But when you took away Robert's legs, it changed everything. Now, in defense of Jayden Daniels, and I will say this from the rooftops, Jayden Daniels is 1,000% the pocket passer that RG3 ever was. RG3 never played in pro offense in college. Rumor had it, and lots of reports at the time, were that RG3 didn't even necessarily have an offense, that they just kind of set the guys out on the field with concepts and off he went. Hey, Robert, go out on the field and run around until you see someone open, and then create a window out of your scrambling and throw it to him, or just run because no one can stop you. Jayden can do it from the pocket. I don't think that Jayden's going to have to rely on his legs for the entirety of his career. I think his legs are a secondary bonus. I think seeing the way that Jayden Daniels runs the ball is a wonderful counterpunch to how well he can throw the ball. We've just not necessarily seen it in the first 2 weeks of this year. Goodwin says, hey, SOW Pod, how are you tonight? Goodwin, you missed. We had a great guest earlier, Denton Day from 106.7 The Fan, ESPN 980 in Washington, D.C., who hosts the Washington Commanders pregame and postgame shows every week, joined us, and we were talking about all sorts of fun Commanders things. Dude, I get it. Doing dad things. It's a whole thing. You know what? I'm curious from you, Goodwin. I know you are a football guy. We're over here, and I'm just kind of ranting to my little heart's content about the fact that this is a Las Vegas team that even Marcus Mariota, I believe, can beat. Mariota played great last year in limited reps. He played very well when Jayden needed a little bit of a spell for his rib injury, and then I don't even know what happened in that last Dallas game. I don't know if Jayden was looking ahead to the playoffs. They're just trying to keep him safe, but man, that kid stunk it up for half of football, and then Marcus Mariota came in, and everything seemed to be clicking and working again. Is Marcus Mariota giving Jayden Daniels a blow actually the best thing for this Commanders offense? Primarily, to me, I think it saves the kid from himself. We talked about this. We've been talking about it. Cannot have another Robert Griffin III situation. Can't do it. That's what I was talking about when you came in right now, Goodwin. You can't put Jayden Daniels on the field if there is a 1% chance that I have to watch that kid's knee turn sideways like I did Robert Griffin III's all those years ago. Just can't do it. Can't do it. Don't want to see it happen. Can't see it happen. It's a big week in D.C. Like I said, the lines are moving all over the place. We're seeing statistics saying that the Commanders right now, after only one loss, they are jumping off the bandwagon like rats jumping off a sinking ship. The lines in Vegas are now saying that the Commanders only have a 59% chance of making the playoffs after one loss. I think it's ridiculous. There are 15 football games left to go. And for that reason alone, you got to protect Jayden from himself. You got to protect the future of this franchise. If you believe that you can beat Oakland with Mariota, you got to send Mariota out. D-Day said it earlier. The fact that Mariota talked to the media today is a pretty good indicator of the direction that things are trending. This is not what fantasy football owners want to hear. Texas Attitude says they should just bench him for the next game. You mean this Sunday against the Raiders, or do you mean next week, which I believe in San Diego? If I'm correct, they play the Raiders at home this week at 1. They play San Diego at 4 the week after. And then the week after that, it's Jayden Daniels versus Caleb Williams part 2 on Monday Night Football. I think that's the schedule. And for that schedule alone, I would much rather have Jayden against a surging, I think I called him San Diego. It's actually the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, surging Los Angeles Chargers team. Jayden versus Justin would be a lot of fun. And then the next week, that Caleb Williams, Jayden Daniels, number 1 versus number 2 rematch. You can say whatever you want to say about the way these Bears are playing right now. And to be clear, it's not very good. Caleb Williams is going to get up for that Jayden Daniels game. There is a weird rivalry between Chicago and Washington that's been brewing in the week that led up to that Hail Mary football game last year and was cemented by Chicago failing because they were taunting fans and the Hail Mary win for the Commanders. This is a team that does not like each other. These are two fan bases that cannot stand each other. I actually expect fights in the stadiums. And you want to see Caleb and Jayden go head to head. You absolutely do. He said, I'd rather see Crosby sack Mariota than Daniels. Correct. And Caleb Williams is sad that they lost against the Commanders. You're absolutely right. And I'm pretty sure that he bought several new containers of fingernail polish and designed his fingernails a very special way the week after they lost to the Commanders. So, guys, look, I appreciate you being here with us tonight. It's been a fantastic evening. Just such a fun time. Season 2 of the Son of Washington podcast has been fantastic. Big thanks again to Denton Day from 106.7 The Fan and ESPN 980 for coming in and talking a little bit of burgundy and gold football with us as we lick our wounds from that embarrassing defeat in Green Bay and prepare to see what's happening and what's going to happen in Washington as the Commanders face off against the Las Vegas Raiders this Sunday, 1 p.m. If I had to pick a score, it's difficult to do because you don't know if Jayden's in, you don't know if Mariota's in. Odds makers seem to think that it's going to be a low-scoring and or a tight game. I think this is a game that even with Marcus Mariota, and I think Washington can hang 27 on Oakland. Las Vegas. Am I ever going to stop saying Oakland Raiders? I don't know them. Las Vegas Raiders. I think Washington, if they feed Bill and can get Mariota in rhythm with Terry early and get Debo going early, I think this is a game that they can easily hang 27, which would be, I think, the most points scored this year. I've already forgotten the score. Yeah, I think it was like 21 that they hung on New York. Fought back to 18 last week. I like to see 27 for the Commanders with Mariota. With Jayden, I think they can go even higher. The question is, though, like, what is this defensive line going to do, and can they keep Las Vegas from scoring? I don't think that Las Vegas is a powerhouse offense. I don't think that they're a team that's going to be able to score much more than 12 or 14 points. If you give them some extra love, maybe you can get them to that 17-21 range. So we'll say it this way, with Mariota, maybe we're looking at a 27-17 game. And if you're looking at Jayden being in the game, I would hope that it'd be a little bit higher than that, but we don't know. I think that Mariota can absolutely hold it down for the Commanders next week. Either way, let us know. Do me a favor. You can follow me over on Twitter at This Is The Ray. Let us know what you think about the episode tonight. Keep that conversation going. Also, if you haven't followed the new Son of Washington channel here on Rumble, make sure you do that. It's rumble.com/Son Son of Washington. Pretty excited to get that channel up and off the ground. Pretty soon, we're not going to be doing this show on my This Is the Ray channel. We're going to be doing it on the Son of Washington channel. We just want to make sure that we can get it out to you guys and help you find it a little bit easier off the top. This Sunday, 1 p.m., Raiders at Commanders. Final prediction, 27-18 Commanders, and possibly more, depending on the health of Jayden Daniels. Thanks for being here. This has been the Son of Washington podcast. My name is Ray. Cannot wait to see you next Wednesday at 9 p.m., hopefully celebrating a Washington Commanders victory.